So, we're going to start out with a couple of good news, and kind of start with kind of bad news. But yesterday, I did the average of everyone's test score. First hour on the test, average of 94%.
Wow.
So very, very impressed, very happy. Slept like a baby last night because I knew everyone did pretty good on the test. Another thing, we're going to start doing this. After every unit, we're going to do like a wall of champions. So it's just going to recognize like top 5 grades in the class. So for our class, if I call your name, stand up. Savine, number 1 with 100%. Ryden with 99%. Tied for second, Sabrina with 99%. Elizabeth Sanders, 97%. And Liz Marie with the 96. So give it up. Top 5 right there. So, all champions will be on front of the class. So, hey, y'all can get on this. It's not that hard.
I'm like 2% under.
No, good. So, good job. Another thing, I'm really concerned about OC and Malad because yesterday we did the assignment together in class and you guys didn't do it. So I'm confused why you guys didn't do it. Just didn't feel like it? Hey, if we do it in class together, working on it together, like last unit, was it helpful when we did it all together every day? You got to get the material a little bit better? Yes? No? Yeah, so we'll continue doing that. But we're going to do it together. Y'all got to do it, okay? So, yesterday, what did I talk about yesterday? What was like the most important, raise your hand, what was the most important river in Egypt? Roberto? Now why, you're right, why was Nile River so important? Ben?
Because it helps everybody travel.
Travel, good. What else? What else does Nile River do? What else does water help do? Giovanna?
Travel.
Good. Travel, yeah. Okay. Yusuf? Huh? Farm. That was the biggest thing. So, farming. We started doing irrigation system. Do you remember what an irrigation system, what that did? Yusuf? Yeah. So, this is an example of basin irrigation. And what this was, they used the Nile River to their advantage. So they used their surroundings. And they were able to take water from the Nile, and they were able to grow their crops further away. They had to go right on top of the Nile, so they could go kind of settle farther away. So with farming, I know this is kind of tapping back in the last unit, but so farming created what? Created what? Talked about it yesterday. Wrote it down. A blank food source. Not nat. Starts with an S. Rhymes with stable. Stable. So it created a stable food source. So it also did this. When you have more of something, it's called what? When you have more of something than needed, it's called what? It starts with an S.
Surplus.
Surplus. Yes. So it created a surplus of food. And the next section is going to touch on this. The surplus of food. It created more jobs. People were able to specialize and do other things. And they didn't have to just farm. So our assignment for today, Unit 2. So what we have to do today is read this section of Geography of Egypt Part 2. It's a very short section, and you just have to answer this question in a paragraph. 1 to 2 really good paragraphs. So you have to answer, how did the geography influence the development of the civilization in ancient Egypt? And you have to compare and contrast the map right here. And we can do this together right now. So when we look at this map of Egypt, this is ancient Egypt right here. The shaded line, so kind of pinkish line, right along the Nile River is ancient Egypt. And then now this pink line is modern day Egypt. So, looking at these two maps, what can we gather from this? What are some differences? Looking at the map, differences. What do you see, Sabrina? Okay, so it's bigger, right? Look at how it's just ancient Egypt, how it's really skinny, and now modern day Egypt, it's really expanded. What else can we gather from this picture? Where do people usually settle on ancient Egypt? Where are they usually settling? Right by what? Right on the Nile River. Nile River, when we read this, it's going to talk about how they let people, like I talked about, gave a surplus of food. The Egyptians used this to their advantage so they could trade for other goods that they didn't need, so they could trade for riches that other countries needed. Like, so Egyptians would get like gold and silver, and they would trade like their own goods, like their crops. Any other differences? Okay, so our goal is to be able to figure out what were the geography influences of the development that helped develop the powerful civilization of Egypt. So does anyone want to start reading the first part, growth of states? Anybody? No? One wants to read? Leo, go ahead.
Agriculture.
A little louder, so everyone can hear you. Follow along so we can understand this together.
Agriculture and irrigation projects needed to sustain it were the foundation for early Egyptian civilization. The irrigation projects the Egyptians undertook required a lot of workers. Often people from several towns or villages had to cooperate with each other in order to complete the necessary work. Leaders emerged to manage workers and supervise construction efforts. Historians have found evidence to suggest that organized governments began to take shape prior to the time of the pharaohs 3000 BC. However, since there are few written records before this time, not much is known about the details of that era. As the amount of farmland increased, so did the quantity of food. In most years, the Egyptians were able to grow more food than they needed. Surplus of crops enabled from some Egyptians to work in other jobs besides farming. The combination of growing governments and specialized workers led to growth of towns. Larger towns came to rule over small villages and gradually grew to cities.
Good. So, can we come up with anything how the geography impacted the growth of states? How did the geography impact it? What happened? What did people start doing? Leo? Building? So what helped people be able to build though? They started to, old MacDonald had a, so they started farming, created a what? Blank of food, surplus of food. They started to specialize in other jobs. So can we add that to maybe part of our paragraph? How can we come up with a sentence about that? What started happening and this is what it created. Anyone? What did we just talk about? So for our sentence, we can talk about how did geography impact the development of ancient Egypt? And we can say what, Leo?
That we specialized in other jobs and the leaders made sure that they did their job.
Okay.
That's what they had surplus of food.
Good, good. Open up Word.
Victor, you're not even where you're supposed to be. They're all reading and you're not even got the stuff on.
So, kind of like summarize what Cleo said. So in ancient Egypt, people started to settle along the Nile River. Farming grew, and they created a surplus of crops, and people started to specialize in other jobs. That kind of summarized what that first part was talking about. So as you're typing, I'll read the next part. Pay attention. So during the time of the pharaohs, managing agriculture was one of the most important jobs of the government. Viziers, whose power was second only to the pharaoh, oversaw the central government, including running the Ministry of Agriculture. Other government officials were responsible for managing the fields or livestock. Eventually, the Egyptians undertook large-scale irrigation works such as the building of dams and large canals. By using improved irrigation methods, the Egyptians were able to grow a surplus of crops. Other civilizations where farming was less successful began to rely on Egypt for food and other goods that they needed. So, Selena, so can you summarize what I just read? Just briefly. Kind of touch on the main things. So this little passage talked about what? Yeah. So if you could hear Selena, she said agriculture is a very important job. So it's just continue on farming. But this last part, I'll read it again. So the Egyptians undertook large-scale irrigation works such as building dams and long canals. By using the improved methods of irrigation, the Egyptians were able to grow a surplus of crops. Other civilizations where farming was less successful began to rely